Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Lions Den podcast on the Monday Night Football. Here to talk about everything Club Leon in English. If you guys are watching us via YouTube and Periscope, please join the conversation. Let us know what your thoughts are. Feel free to share your comments. Keep the conversation going. You don't have to agree with everything we say. We're definitely open to what everybody is thinking. Just let us know in the comment section. We're going to talk about everything that happened this past jornada weekend. Also to look into CCL as we have second leg and this next Liga MX game later down in the week. So join the conversation. Louis and Carlos, gentlemen, how are we feeling on this Monday Night Football?
Pretty good, I think.
Yeah, it's I got tired of learning lessons by losing. It's better to learn lessons and still win the game.
Yes. Yeah, major bullet
Much better.
dodged. Major bullet dodged. But TCL looks good. Hopefully we can close that out tomorrow. But man, we really gotta get it together in league. But we'll get into it.
Well, they played probably their worst league match of the season in a season that's already had a couple of stinkers, and it was still enough to beat Chivas. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Definitely. Well, we have lots to talk about, guys. We'll definitely start off with the match versus Chivas. Then we'll get into the CCL first leg and second leg as we didn't have a pod in between. And then we'll definitely end it with Nicaxa. So starting off with Chivas. Carlos, are we ready for the pregame?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Angelito Mena and Kagel Majed both out. Kagel Majed, I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if anybody knows. I don't know if you guys know, but he was apparently hospitalized. So he was out for Saturday's match. Federico Martinez as well. He was serving a one-game suspension for getting the red card against Pumas. And then I just put on there that leg 2 is going to be played tomorrow for anybody that didn't know. But yeah, nothing very surprising. I think pretty straightforward news. Shout out to Chivas del Norte on the chat.
Hey, the comment. Yeah, shout out to Chivas del Norte. Sorry, real quick. If you guys did not watch Louis' pregame video, you guys can definitely watch that on the pod. Sorry, Carlos, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, let's get into the starting lineup though, because I think it was a pretty good lineup. But I'll let you guys shoot off whatever opinions you guys have about it. Cota, Mosquera, the return of William Tecillo, Barreiro, Osvi, who came through in the final minutes, Jefecito, Colombato, Montes, who looked a lot better than he has been lately, Meneses, Elias, and Davila up front. Thoughts, guys, on the starting lineup?
Yeah, having Tecillo back, I think he's a big absence anytime he can't play, which is hardly ever. I mean, he's kind of the Iron Man. He hardly ever misses any. He plays pretty much every minute of every game and has played every minute of every game since he's gotten here. So to have him unavailable, I feel like that's a very noticeable absence, and it was very noticeable to have him back. Even though the left side of the defensive shape always seems a little bit vulnerable, but I think when you have him playing as a center back and not a left back, you're prone to that because Osvi is a very offensive minded fullback, and John Meneses does not like to bajar, get back on defense ever. So I've noticed these past couple games against Chivas and against Pumas, not so much against Guastatoya in the first leg because they didn't really pose much of a serious threat aside from a couple of chances. But the left side of the defensive shape is where we're always vulnerable. More so against Pumas than against Chivas, and I think having Tecillo back helped with that a little bit.
Definitely. I wish we would have had. Sorry, I have a lot of things running through my head. Osvi, as again, hardly criticize him. I mean, I always criticize him very harshly. And it ended up winning the game for us. But to me, doesn't justify that. That is the weak. He is the weakest link on our starting lineup. To me, he's the weakest link. And you guys can choose to agree, but that's just how I feel.
I mean, I'm by no means his biggest supporter either. I have not been at all, really. But I think until Colombato finds his form, he's looked a little bit shaky. I know he also had a goal against Pumas, a pretty nice one.
Yeah.
But that's not his primary role. His primary role is not to score golazos. I mean, if he scores one, great. But his primary role is to create and do a little bit of recuperación, even though he's not really a natural contención, and they try to play him as one. But he just doesn't. I feel like he hasn't gotten his feet fully back under him yet. He didn't. I don't think he looked particularly great against Chivas.
Yeah, I hope that goal really helps to boost his confidence. Whatever, I hope it helps to help him shake off whatever was bothering him and why his level of play was so low over the last couple of weeks. And because he is our weakest link. I have to agree with Gotti there. He is our weakest link. But I also didn't see much from our wingers, Meneses and Elias. They didn't really do much. I mean, those are
poor,
disappointing.
Poor game from Meneses, especially, I thought.
Very, very. Like, those are players que pesan. There's, tienen que pesar. And we saw nothing from them. I mean, and it wasn't like Chivas were doing spectacular either. I don't know. I feel like we kind of just put it into neutral.
We did.
And yeah, right. We just put it into neutral, and then we finally, like I said on Twitter, we finally put the pedal to the metal, like once it was necessary to. But we could have closed things out pretty early, I think, against this Chivas team.
We could have, but I think going into neutral is kind of the name of the game right now with all these games in such close proximity to one another. Like, I know a lot of people were upset about. I guess we'll get into CCL in a bit, but about the second half in Guatemala, they were just basically cascareando. They were not even really trying for it in that second half.
Yeah,
they were just trying to get to the end, and even so, they generated a ton of chances that they should have finished. But I totally get that. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say if they hadn't have done that in Guatemala, I mean, those legs were shot by the end of this Chivas game, and they would have been shot even more if they hadn't have taken it a little bit easy, made the subs that they did, and just really tried to see that one out in Guatemala. So, and that's what I said at the time, like to anyone who's complaining, like, look, these guys they're not cyborgs. They don't have limitless energy. They have to kind of manage these games. It's not always going to be pretty when you have this many games.
Oh, Louis freeze.
Uh-oh. Come on, Louis.
Louis kind of froze there. I mean, we'll definitely talk about CCL because there is a lot to talk about, especially on Twitter in the comments of that second half. To me, I think I agree with you, Carlos. I think we got the goal early on. Huge error. Obviously, I feel like the only salvageable players of the night were Cota and Davila. And that's it.
Yeah. I think so too. Yeah.
Sorry, I disappeared for a second. In against Chivas?
Yeah, you froze for a little bit.
The only salvageable players to me were Cota and Davila. That's it.
But it was enough. I mean, that's what I was saying before I cut out. You can't. I know it's really the moda to complain about the formas.
Uh-oh.
Again. Louis, we lost you.
What was I going to say? I was going to say, he said it was enough. Louis says it was enough. And yes, I agree it was enough. We got the win. But, I mean, it's enough against Chivas, but it's not going to be enough against other teams. If you play like this against other teams, a Tigres, a Cruz Azul, even a Puebla, you can even throw Puebla into the equation now because of how well they're playing. If you play like that against these teams, like, you're going to end up paying. And luckily for us, Chivas weren't a threat until maybe like the second half when we
we let them. You know what I mean? That's the thing. Like, I understand Louis saying like it was enough, especially with games being so close back to back to back. But to me, if we have a squad like we do, we have the depth, we have players that are, like we mentioned, always be kind of a weak link. We have players who have their off games, but all in all, we have a good squad. Why can't we just not worry? We, clearly had a couple opportunities in the first half that we could have scored one or two. Why do we have to be in neutral for Chivas to take over a bit in the second half and then get to the measures that we did at the end with the Osvi's, face goal?
I don't know. I feel like the game in Guatemala, like how we were cascareando, I think that kind of bled over into this Chivas match because, I mean, no disrespect to Chivas, but they didn't look that great. I mean, they're defensively, they didn't look that great. They also were not completing passes. Anytime they had a chance to counter us, they always messed it up, which we also did too. I think that's why it was such a poor game up to like the 80th minute. But I don't think they were that big of a threat. We kind of just, like I said, we put it into neutral. Estábamos cascareando con ellos. And yeah, I mean, we could have closed things out earlier, but I don't know. I don't know.
I just don't. I'm watching these guys play and the effort that they're putting into it, the legs. I don't think it would. I know you think that the kind of, not apathy, but just the lack of intensity in that second half against Guastatoya might have bled over. I think that was the only reason they had any. Like I said before, that was the only reason they had any legs left against Chivas. That's the only reason they had the ability to win that game. And to be fair, there was nothing cheap about that goal. That was doesn't matter what minute a play like that comes in, all the minutes count the same in a game. There was nothing cheap about it. It was a great pass, not a great control, but a serviceable control and a decent enough finish. That's a play that you would like them to make and expect them to make at any point in the game. I think, the fact that it had to come at the last minute, it does beg the question, why couldn't they get something like that earlier? But the simple answer is they didn't need to. We can't really be complaining. I know it's as frustrating as it is for me. It makes us look like a bunch of Villamelones, but like the moda in the afición right now is to complain about the formas. Like no matter what we do and how we do it, it's not good enough. And I'm just not going to jump on that train, especially with all these games we have to play right now. I am not going to do that. There'll be time to complain about the formas later when all we have is Liga, and we're trying to finish strong and make a Liguilla run. But right now, with all these games happening, and it's not a simple schedule in Liga while we have these games going, the formas pasan a segundo término. We can't really be complaining about the way they're doing it. They just got two really, really good results. It doesn't, for me right now anyway, it doesn't really matter how they got them.
So would this be different if they would have tied?
I think so. I think we'd be having a totally different conversation.
It would feel different. In the long run, I don't think it would change our possibilities in league play that much. I still think our possibilities in league play are quite good. I mean, you look at the standings right now, they have played largely quite poorly in league play, and they're on 8 points in 8th place with all the opportunity in the world to go higher. I think the overreaction is just rampant right now in our fan base, and I gotta be the cool head that's not going to jump on that bandwagon.
I don't know, man. I mean, we lost 2 in a row with Holland in league play, and suddenly you're going to tie against Chivas, one of the worst teams in the past few seasons. I mean, that's probably a cause for concern when you have a León team that's clearly been dominating league play over the past couple of years, and that's a repeating.
I don't know, people
playoff contender. A repeating.
People forget
champion contender like that. We're a contender every year, and suddenly we lose 2 in a row and tie against Chivas. It's gonna set off some alarms.
I don't know, man. People just have this recency bias with this team. I don't think people so easily forget how many cheap results we got on the way to that finals run. And I feel like if Navarro and Chapito had made their PKs, nobody would be calling for Holland's head right now. It's a game of inches. It's that small of a difference between wanting his head and saying no. He brought us a title, 2 titles actually in one season. Give the guy more chance. People are not being reasonable with Ariel Holland this season, and it's I haven't liked everything I've seen either, but I'm not calling for his head. I'm not going to call for his head. The guy has earned a little bit of leeway, and the middle portion, or starting around this point in the last season, all the way through next few, they won the League's Cup and then lost, I believe, 2 straight against Atlas and Pumas. I don't remember what they lost 2 straight at one point last season too. But the losses against Pumas, against Atlas, against Juarez in Liga, all very bad losses. Well, except for maybe Atlas. But the Pumas and the Juarez losses at home last season were bad. And all of that happened all around kind of the same time. And then look how things turned out. People are just freaking out over this, and I just can't. I cannot get behind it.
I don't think I'm not. I don't consider myself in the thought of a lot of fan bases for calling his head, because I'm not calling his head. I just think, obviously I understand that we have so little time between games. I just think, obviously it's been questioned, the substitutions that are so late, right? Obviously we don't agree with everything that he does, but to me, I feel like they shouldn't have struggled against Chivas, and that's it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yes, like you said, we we don't care how we got the result. We got the result. We won. It's just, I just don't like how it depended on the last second to get it. You know what I mean? Because we could have at least a 2-0 first half, minimal 2-0 first half. Oh, they scored 1. We held it down 2-1, like that. Okay, cool. But it's just, they totally shut down to me. I mean, it was just so it's so what are we going to expect tomorrow? Obviously, no disrespect. I feel like, we'll get into CCL. They could have racked a couple more on the scoreboard. I just think I struggle with Leon's mentality sometimes, and where it's at in certain stages of between league and CCL.
My thing is, I don't see much difference in that winning goal that we saw coming in minute 75 or coming in minute 90 plus 4. I mean, that's the kind of play you expect to see once or twice a game. No more than that. I don't really, to me, when it happened doesn't really, I'm not focusing on that too much. I think it happened when it happened. I mean, you play to the final whistle, And I'm saying, I think you might think of it differently if it had happened in minute 75 as opposed to 90 plus 4. To me, there's not much difference. To someone else, there might be.
But the thing, I think what I'm also thinking about is that I think all of us subconsciously know that Cota has been showing up every single game. You know what I mean? We're not really talking about him not, we're talking about, the players. I'm not even talking about Cota, because subconsciously we know that Cota has put his heart out and probably has saved us a couple, more than a handful of times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of because he was frustrated too. You know what I mean? So it's kind of my frustration comes from his frustration, because he's on the field, he's giving it his all. Why is it? What's going on? What's wrong? These are players that have played together for so long. It's just, to me, I'm just saying, we could have attained the win earlier. He's called calm, cool, collected.
There's a reason that he's the captain when Chapito goes off or isn't starting. I mean, people talk about having a good goalkeeper as just something that's expected, as opposed to an asset, a real true asset on the field for your starting 11. And I think when you have a guy like Cota, you have to think of him that way. He's not just a guy who's back there and isn't going to make serious blunders. I mean, he's a weapon for your squad. A good goalkeeper can be a weapon for your squad. I mean, there's a reason there's a reason nobody's complaining anymore about when Yarbrough left. He had been a portero bicampeón. Cota's just better, so nobody's complaining. And yeah, he saved us. But you think back to that Cruz Azul game, for example. Chuy Corona saved them in that game in the same way that Cota has saved us. That was a win for Leon, if not for Chuy Corona. So I don't know if we should think about it in that way. If not for Cota, well, I mean, that's what we expect of a goalkeeper of his class. Just like we do of Chuy Corona. Like it's not just, I don't know. I feel like the treatment of goalkeepers is different. Like we shouldn't have to depend on Cota. Well, maybe we do. I don't know. Maybe that's not a
depend
bad
on
thing.
him a little too much, and maybe at this point, I feel like Cota at this point is like nobody else is stepping up in terms of a leader or a captain role because there's no voice out there, somebody to pull you to the side and give you a few words. It's Cota who's doing that. After the Guastatoya match, there was a clip going around where he was like regañando a los jugadores, like, what are you guys doing? Like, we had a chance to close this thing out 5-0, 4-0, and you guys are just running out here like this isn't an important match.
Yeah.
And I really like that about him.
It should be Chapo, but Chapo's play is not backing him up right now. That's the problem. It has to be both things. It has to be a play and a respected voice. It can't just be one or the other.
I mean, it has to be one.
But as you said, Chapo looked a little better against Chivas, so hopefully he still has something left in the tank for an upswing this season.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna bring it up. I just want to bring it up. Regreso de Macias.
It was uneventful as was
I think that's the best way to put it. Uneventful.
After the booze. No, there was some booze, obviously.
I don't really care.
But once he took the pitch, it was uneventful, and that's all we could really hope for.
I mean, still leaves the question up in the air if it was really all him or if it was just the support of around Macias that made Macias kind of shine through. Right?
Made him who he was. I mean, if he had never come to Leon and had that great 6 months, would anybody even be talking about him?
Exactly.
It was 2 seasons. He had a good year.
2 seasons, yeah, good year.
Yeah, he had a good year, but the question's still up in the air. You know what I mean? Like, was it all just Meneses and Montes and everybody surrounding him, or was he the real deal? And I think he still has a lot to prove. But I didn't need to mention that.
To his credit, I think those guys also benefited from having a great target man like him around.
Yeah.
In theory, Ormeño should be just as good or better, but that's not how it's worked out. So those guys could be more threatening because they knew they had a guy like Macias in the middle. I think it was a symbiotic relationship, and the way that Ambriz had them playing, it's hard to know how if Macias would still be as effective if he played for the squad now. That's something we don't know and probably will never know again.
Definitely.
Yeah, he wouldn't be playing with us right now. He'd be in Europe.
Most likely.
He'd be in Europe by now.
Yeah.
Exported. If he stayed.
You said what?
Wait,
what did you say, Louis?
You mean if he'd stayed?
Yeah.
And not gone to Chivas. Yeah.
It stayed.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about that.
Let's not talk about that. Anything else that we need to talk about that recap versus Chivas before we move on to CCL?
Thoughts on this fuera Holland that was being chanted? And well, I mean, I also want to know like your guys' thoughts on like Chapito Montes and everybody else who was subbed out. Apparently, Chapito Montes was so frustrated with being subbed out. He was like throwing stuff around. I don't know if he was mad at the players or at Holland for making the substitutions that he did, but apparently there was something terribly wrong on the bench, and I think the fans noticed it, and then they started chanting this fuera Holland. But what do you guys think?
I don't know. I think it was the heat of the moment. If you look at the replay of Osvi's goal, the first guy to run up and hug him was actually Chapito from the bench.
Yeah.
If you look at that, Chapito could have been like on the bench sulking and like have no interest in doing something like that. But no, he was there and he was the first one to greet him. So I think it was probably just frustration in the moment. At that point, when he was subbed off, it was a frustrating game for sure. So yeah, I wouldn't read too much into that, but we'll see.
I just want if I had Olan in front of me, I mean, would have many questions, but one question would be like, why do you sub in so late? Like, I've never understood that. Like,
That's
so late in the game. Like,
that is his biggest flaw, I would say, to this point. I think the dude just has trust issues. He has certain guys that he trusts, and then to win his trust seems like has been almost an impossible task to this point. But I expect to see. I mean, I guess. Well, we're going to get into CCL, but just for tomorrow, I expect to see a heavily rotated side. I expect to see guys that you wouldn't think would have earned his trust getting either start or early sub in. He did sub in early in Guatemala, like that second half. I mean, he used up pretty much all of his subs early in the second half.
Yeah, I think if there's any time to experiment, it would be tomorrow. As a fan, I would want to see like some rotations, especially on the defensive end. Like I wouldn't mind seeing like Kagel Majed and maybe Pedrito Hernandez, like some of these guys that don't, Fidel Ambriz, some of these guys that don't really get to play, because we have a 3-goal lead, right? We have a 2-goal lead, but they have to score 3 if they want to win. So I mean, I trust our boys. I mean, they play in a first division in Mexico, so I think it should be pretty straightforward for them to be able to defend a 2-goal lead.
Yeah, I expect a Kagamaker start, and even Pedro Hernandez has been getting a few minutes here and there. This could be an opportunity for him. Sit both Barreiro and Mosquera. They've been logging a ton of minutes.
Give Ormeño another chance.
Yeah, this is not. We don't honestly. I don't see Guastatoya the way I saw them play. I don't expect to see them score 1, let alone 2, no matter who we trot out there. It's just, especially in our place. So you don't have to go out and get a result. I mean, I know our history in this tournament is not good. It dictates that, no, we can't take any chances. We got to go out there and play as though we were trailing. And I get that, but it's just not practical against this opponent. In a further round against a stronger team, who knows? But for right now, I want to see a heavily rotated side. I want to see some of these guys getting rest. And I want to see them with a first choice lineup beat Nicaxa on Friday.
We have Necaxa Friday.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know. I was about to ask you guys.
So before we get into the CCL, we'll quickly jornada rundown if you guys did not watch the other games. Starting off on Friday with Puebla beating Monterrey 1-0, which, like, it's going out there. The Larca, what is it? The Larca boys came out.
Alar Camion?
No, it's Larca boys.
La Camion?
No, Larca boys. Yes.
Javier Aguirre on the hot seat?
I mean, I think I saw that they're have his back. I did see a video circling about fans kind of approaching Funes Mori coming out of practice in the car. And I mean, shout out to Eddie. He's probably struggling right now through the hard times. Monterrey does have 2 games to make up still. But I think they've been struggling for a while, which leads to questions. Last time that they won anything was back in 2019. And this is a team that is top with money bags with all these players. So definitely,
Well, no, they won the Conca Champions.
Yeah, I mean, but in regards to league, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like they spend
as badly as we want to win the Conca Champions, I'm not going to discredit any Conca Champions win.
No. I mean, credit to that. I mean, I celebrated it. A Mexican team. But I'm just saying, league wise, I think a lot of fans are frustrated.
Yeah,
league wise.
I mean, but what good is a Conca Champions if you're just going to go to Qatar just to get knocked out by a bunch of subs?
Yeah, that was bad. But
especially
it was also
when
really
your crosstown rival did like the complete opposite a year before.
I did see a tweet out there about I think it was a Leon fan saying we can't really criticize Monterrey, just shut up, because if it was us, like this and this and that. So let's digress from that for now.
Well, and also back just very briefly to the Fuera Holland thing, look what Aguirre and especially Solari are right now. You know, would we rather have one of them? I don't think so.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's not about the quality of the players that they have. I think that at this point, neither of them can win. I think les están tendiendo la cama.
Yeah.
I mean,
And they
you have
can tenderle la cama a whoever. So like, just that's why I'm not I'm not a fuera Holland. I will not be a fuera Holland person.
yeah.
Okay. Well said. Moving into next game, Juarez Santos pretty much just snooze fest, ended in a 0-0 draw.
Santos not looking good. I think you got to talk to you know who, Cuddy.
We've had lots of talks. Xolos and Necaxa drawing 1-1. Querétaro beating Mazatlan 2-0. Tigres beating San Luis 2-1. Obviously, our Leon 2-1 last minute versus Chivas. I enjoyed watching the Pachuca America. America is just deteriorating as we speak.
They're a dumpster fire.
Avilés Hurtado, he's playing really well.
Yeah. Really, really well. Now
I bet Monterrey are like kicking themselves in the foot for letting him go and letting Charlie go.
Well, Charlie is in his penthouse, probably in Mexico City, with that money.
Yeah.
And ni hablar de Nico Ibanez.
He also
who is the leading scorer in the league right now.
Definitely revamped.
But we got Ormeño.
Now there's a goalie that having some issues lately. I honestly think Solari's on his last couple of games, but I mean I don't think it's happening.
Yeah, I mean as long as Tldp owns the team, we will not see another goalkeeper in that team, in that squad.
Next game, Cruz Azul 4-1 versus Nacho Ambriz Toluca, and then a draw 0-0 Pumas and Atlas for last night. So this week's Liga MX will start on Thursday with Pachuca versus Mazatlan. Moving into the CCL overview, well, Gustavo Aranda had a comment, which we'll definitely get. But I want to start off by saying, Louis, you traveled first leg. How was your experience in Guatemala in a CCL? How was the stadium? I mean, tell us everything.
It was quite the experience, to say the least. I mean, living in Mexico for as long as I had, going to Guatemala, it's a lot of things are very, very similar. Just the layout and, going to Guatemala City. Well, first I went to Antigua for a couple of days to check that out. Very reminiscent of, speaking about places in Guanajuato, very reminiscent of like a San Miguel Allende kind of place. But with a lot more interesting surroundings, volcanoes, one of which I went on a hike to explore. And Guatemala City, akin to many large Latin American cities, large cities in Mexico, like just on the surface, walking down the street, you wouldn't necessarily, you might forget that you're not in Mexico until you see a Taco Bell where an Oxxo should be. That's like the biggest difference. Yeah, and I did eat there. No apologies.
Oh, nice.
How was it?
It was exactly the same as in the United States. Yeah.
What'd you order?
Well, I always get a crunch wrap, and then I get like 3 items. One of them is always a crunch wrap, and then the other 2 can vary. Maybe like a cheesy gordita crunch or a taco supreme or a.
What about chalupa?
Burrito. Yeah, I like the chalupas too.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just it's not authentic, but it's a very different flavor set that sometimes I do miss when I'm not around it. So, but anyway. Aside from that, it was kind of surreal to actually be in that stadium. I've been to so many games in so many places at this point where I don't often get that feeling where I'm like, am I actually sitting here watching this in person? Because I've never been to this country before, never been to this stadium before. Realized only later that this was the first time that Club León had ever played in Guatemala.
Oh.
So, which was surprising to me. All the international tournaments in the CONCACAF, like the CCL before it was the CCL, the CONCACAF Champions Cup or whatever. Leon had played in several of those, and I thought maybe at some point they played in Guatemala, but it was confirmed to me that no, they hadn't. This was also the first time that VAR was used in an official match in a Guatemalan stadium. So 2 historical moments that I witnessed in person. Club Leon's first match in Guatemala, first use of VAR in a Guatemalan stadium, and just the vibe was really, really interesting. It's a very basic, bare bones stadium, kind of like Seúl for Pumas or the one in Ciudad Juarez. They both with the athletic track around the pitch. Although I think the sight lines are much better in the Guatemala stadium than they are in the Puma stadium, and since I was just at both, I can easily make that comparison. But yeah, and the fans that were there, about 100, between 100 and 200 members of Los Locos de Arriba made the trip to Guatemala. Some familiar faces. I ended up meeting up with some of them after the game in the little hostel that they were staying at nearby. And I got to see some cool parts, both of Antigua and Guatemala City, some cool neighborhoods. It's not what you'd expect. First of all, it's very expensive. Way more expensive than you'd expect. You know, the quetzal, the currency down there, is worth about 3 times what the Mexican peso is. But the prices that you see for food and drink and lots of things down there are a lot closer to what you'd expect to see in a peso price. So if that says anything, it's not cheap.
Give us an example,
well, let's see,
like a beer.
Yeah, a beer. A Corona here would cost between 30 and 35 pesos now, I would say.
Yeah.
40 maybe in the foofier places. And a gallo, which is the national beer of Guatemala, like the most prominent, their version of Corona or Victoria, costs about 25 quetzales in a restaurant.
Which is how many pesos?
So that's 25 quetzales is about 60 pesos. Yeah, something like that.
That is a lot.
And that's just in an average run-of-the-mill place. Like the same kind of places I would go in Mexico to get a Corona.
Yeah.
I went to a place like that to get a gallo, and yeah, not like a fancy foofy place, like just a regular place. So that was shocking. The other thing is there was nothing there that I found that stayed open later than 11 p.m., which was also kind of shocking, which is one of the reasons I was forced to eat at Taco Bell, not once, but twice. Because it was the only thing still open, late at night.
What time does Taco Bell close? Like after midnight?
It closes at 11. And that was the absolute latest that anything stayed open there. Yeah, it was pretty nuts. But man, there are some really, really nice neighborhoods in Guatemala City. Like, really, really nice. I was walking down, and it looks like the nicest neighborhoods in Mexico City, like a Polanco or a Condesa or something like that. Really, really nice. And I think people's conception of Guatemala and Central America in general is not like that at all. They think it's like run down and poor, which I mean, parts of it certainly are.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
But that was not my experience. And the stadium experience was cool. The fans that were there, the fans that made the trip, not just the ones from here, but there were fans there. The guy who I ended up sitting next to in the stadium is dual national Guatemala, Mexico. I believe his father is from Guatemala and his mother is from León. So he's both a León and a Club Municipal fan. And it just so happened that León came and played in Guatemala, so he went to the game. There were other just fans of León in the stands there. I talked to a few of them. It was just a really, really interesting experience, and also got my moment with Chucho Martinez, the president of the team, because his palco was, in order to get from the field, or the players come out on the field, in order to get from there to his palco, he had to walk up through where I was sitting. This is an old bare-bones stadium without a lot of underground and side passages, so he had to walk right up into the stands to get to his palco. So I had my moment with him, which was cool. Wouldn't normally get that even at a game in León. Yeah. So that was cool too. Yeah, just overall kind of a surreal but really, really fun experience, and obviously a result I was pleased with. Would have been nice to get 5 or 6 goals that they surely could have gotten if they pressed on the gas a little bit more. But I was happy with the result as it was, and the experience was quite memorable.
That's
Nice.
awesome.
That's not a word. Memorable. That's the word I'm looking for. Quite memorable.
That's awesome. Gustavo Aranda said chicken chipotle melt from Taco Bell is fire. I can confirm it is good.
Yeah.
Try it.
You guys know. A lot of people know. Like you guys
I've never had it.
wouldn't get. You've never had Taco Bell?
No, that one. I've never had the Chipotle
Oh, the
melt.
chicken
Oh, but you've
chipotle
had
melt?
Taco Bell.
Yeah, I've had Taco Bell, but I'm not really. I don't really go there. There's a lot better places.
Right, but you understand. You understand its value.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Like most
When
of
you're
the
hammered,
people,
Snack, easy.
the people I meet here in Mexico get so self-righteous about it. They're not even interested in trying it just because it's not an authentic representation of their ancestral cuisine. I get that, but like it's not trying to be. It's something different. You know?
it has its own little style, its own little flavor.
Yeah.
It's like McDonald's. You only go there when you're like, hammered.
Yeah.
Get those
But
carbs
the
down.
McDonald's and Leon, the Big Macs are way better than the ones here, and I can confirm. Yes.
Really?
Yes. Like they actually look like the TV ones that look so nicely prepped and done.
Yeah.
Yes. I would
Gotta
eat
get one next time.
Big Mac any day in Leon. Yeah.
Okay.
Not here. They just throw everything on there and it's just like looks like
Well, buddy, in Texas, why does McDonald's even bother when you've got Whataburger?
I'm not a huge Whataburger. I had In-N-Out a couple of days ago, and it's a good basic.
Or In-N-Out. Either one is better than McDonald's, I would say.
It is
in the US, at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dylan from the Eagle Eye Podcast. He's a huge Whataburger fan. I told him I ate In-N-Out, and he was just like, "What are you doing?" So, anyways, so Louis, like you already had mentioned, we kind of talked about that in the beginning. First half and second half in Guatemala, guys. I mean, realistically, what was the scoreboard that we should have walked out with?
Conservatively 4-0. Yeah.
Mínimo.
Getting a little greedier, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But again, with this calendar, 2-0 away in a stadium and in a country they'd never played in before at any point in their history, I'll take it.
It's
different. It's different than getting a 2-0 against LAFC at home and then going up there with that. It's different.
Yeah. It's different, and it also doesn't worry me because our opponent isn't LAFC and they're not Toronto FC. They're, Guastatoya, who, I mean, no offense to them, but they're not that great of a team. I mean, it doesn't look like they're a threat. It doesn't look like they're going to compete against us. But man, if we had that many chances and if we were dominating a game that good against LAFC or Toronto FC in the first leg, which we kind of already did, and then we came back and lost it, that would really suck.
Yeah, just one interesting side note about one thing I forgot from my trip down there. The day after our game, I went back to the stadium to see Colorado Rapids versus Comunicaciones.
Oh.
Just because, I mean, I was still there, and I was like, well, why not? This will be interesting just to go as a neutral, see two teams that I don't really have any investment in except for the fact that William Yarbrough is the starting goalkeeper for Colorado. So it was fun to see him play and start in goal in that game the day after León had played. And Comunicaciones, which is right there with Guastatoya in the Guatemalan league standings, like the league table, they're like right there. I think they're either 2 and 3 or 1 and 2. I can't remember, but they're both up there near the top of the table in the Guatemalan league standings. And the difference between Comunicaciones versus Colorado and Guastatoya versus us was monumental. Comunicaciones, I thought, was the better team in that game against Colorado. And they got a major golazo to get a 1-0 win against Colorado at the end of that game. If you guys didn't see the replay of it, it was a pretty frustrating game to be at. Not a lot of scoring, a lot of back and forth, but no finishing. And then the Comunicaciones, which Tita, Club León legend, finished his career at that club in that stadium and won a title with that team. So interesting tidbit. But Comunicaciones, they got that golazo at the end there, and that made the whole experience worth it. Check that goal out if you didn't see it. It It was rough to see William get scored on like that. It was brought back some traumatic memories, even though he's no longer on our team. Because they scored a few of those against him when he was with Leon that I saw in person. So yeah, that was a little traumatic, but so it was just interesting to see the comparison. Comunicaciones was the better team in their match, and Guastatoya clearly was not the better team against Leon. So it just goes to show the levels there. Like even Leon not playing great, like they still completely dominated.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had a good 20 minutes maybe where we just completely dominated the first half.
Yeah.
I think Guastatoya came out and they tried to compete. They held their ground. They defended well. They were well structured. But when you have someone like Luis Montes giving a perfect dime to Elias Hernandez, who chips it over the keeper, I mean, that's unguardable. You can't defend that, and it's pure skill. I mean, that's what Leon has to offer, and that's why we have players of that caliber. So yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it's a good game.
Heart, hustle, and grit you find everywhere. It's that last little finishing touch that they just didn't come anywhere close to replicating.
Definitely. Gustavo Aranda also said, how do you view Luis Angel Landi's performance? So I missed him. Like, it's just the type of player that you knew in Liga MX, then you know that he went out and never really followed his career.
He was a JJ Macias of his time, just like Cubo Torres. I think someone in the comments mentioned Cubo Torres, like a guy who was really promising and then just fizzled out. Although I'd say Cubo Torres had a better career than Landin. Ultimately,
you got to give credit to Landin though. Going out, making his career somewhere else. I mean, he seems comfortable. He seems happy. I mean, with Guastatoya has like 37 goals since 2019. I mean, he is 35, so I guess we don't know when.
But man, the fans, at least the ones that were around me in the stands, it was a very, very. This was the other interesting thing. I would say there were almost as many Leon fans in the stadium as there were Guastatoya fans, which was kind of interesting. Understandable, perhaps. It's not the easiest of trips to make from where that town is to the capital. Honestly, it takes longer. It would take longer to get there by bus. Cities by bus than it does from Mexico City to Guatemala City by plane. So it's like the two teams traveled just about the same amount, which is kind of funny to get to that match. But no, the fans that were the few Guastatoya fans that were near me in the stands there, they were reventando a Landin. Like they were not happy with his performance. They thought he should have done more, especially playing against a Mexican team. Like I don't know, there should have been some extra revancha there, I guess, but no, he was invisible in that game.
Well, I do like his beard, so if that gets any credit, then I did like his beard. He grew out his beard.
Well, I mean, beards don't always get the appreciation that they deserve. So, so I'm with you there.
Yeah. Okay, so you guys had mentioned earlier on about seeing a heavily rotated starting 11 tomorrow. What are we thinking realistically? Are we seeing Cota's gonna start, or is Poncho Blanco gonna get a start?
Yeah, I see Cota starting.
Cota?
Yeah, this could be a Poncho Blanco game though. I don't know.
Could be.
I don't really see much reason to rotate the goalkeeper, as I've stated multiple times before on this podcast.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be shocked if Blanco started.
Is there anyone in the starting lineup that you would be shocked that would be benched tomorrow if they got benched?
Shocked?
No. So everybody is rotatable.
Yeah.
Everyone. Okay.
I mean,
I wouldn't mind seeing a Gil Buron start.
I was gonna say I would love to see Gil Buron start.
This is a game where we don't unless things go completely sideways, we don't need to score. So put in Gil Buron. His defensive instincts are perfectly fine for a game like this.
Gil Buron, Isaac Muñiz, Fidel Ambriz, Pedro Hernandez.
I think Fidel Ambriz needs to start tomorrow.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity for Fidel Ambriz to start. And Ormeño,
Omar Fernandez, since he came in the second half last game.
Federico, I'd say
Federico's probably going to start. since he's well rested.
Although Gary could start too.
Gary,
So very big Gary and Gotti.
Gotti,
Gary.
I can't say it. I just have to say Gary.
Gotti.
Yeah, it's just such a not Spanish name.
Pedrito and Gotti.
It's, like a not.
I can see that.
Pedrito Gotti, Hill Killer, who plays in place of Osby.
Oh. I mean, unless you push Tecillo as a left back, but
I could see Tecillo starting since he missed a couple of games. He should be pretty fresh.
I think so.
Yeah.
And then
that
midfield
could provide some stability. Yeah.
I mean, midfield, Fidel
Ambris, Chapo, I would say. I wouldn't mind Chapo starting since he was a little mad that he came out. Plus, it'd be a good game for him to continue his good rhythm.
I bet Davila won't start.
I hope he doesn't, because he's been playing so well. I think we just need to rest him, and he's been playing.
Yeah, but we don't need him. We don't need him to be excellent in this game.
Yeah,
and I want him fresh for his old team against Nicaxa.
Yeah, let's do like Ormeño, Omar Fernandez, Elias again. Maybe Meneses.
I'd start Elias.
Or you guys want?
He had a good game first leg.
What do you guys think about Jorge Diaz Price?
No.
I don't know.
He's available. You really want to risk throwing somebody out there like a Jan Meneses?
Yes.
Really like what's a
respectfully,
game?
I just don't see why he's back. Respectfully.
Me neither. I mean, he's under contract, so he had to be back.
Yeah, I mean, but I feel like maybe they couldn't find him another place to loan him out, and he's back. But there was a Twitter space that I was listening to a couple of days ago, and they were heavily criticizing Bryce being back and what that meant for the club and all that stuff. Also, I want to hear what y'all's thoughts are, because I don't know if I could. I don't know. It's the thought that's been going on. So in one of the spaces, El Warrior was on there, and someone had asked him. Hold up, someone had asked him like, ¿qué necesita hacer León para, clasificarse como uno de los grandes? And this question has come up in our podcast, many times in the past. And his answer was, León necesita un rival. And I'm just kind of like, necesita un clásico.
Of course he's going to say that. He's from Irapuato.
I know. He's like, nobody hates on León. Like, if you ask someone in Mexico, like, oh, what do you think about the León? They're not going to hate on them. They quite like them. But, if you ask, like, up north, like, they have either, the Tigres, the Monterrey, like, they're, either or hates each other. They have that huge rivalry. And I'm kind of like, okay, so you're saying, because he was like, oh, I don't think it's the campeonatos. I don't think it's that. It's just that they don't have a rival. Like,
no.
I'm like, no, I
disagree.
I highly disagree with that.
Yeah.
But he was really trying to sell it like that.
He really tries to sell a lot of stuff, and he's just a big blowhard, and I do not value his opinion at all.
Yeah. It was just interesting to just hear, because there's a lot of Twitter spaces that I hear here and there, and it's interesting to see, people ask questions, but I really disagree with his answer, and I don't think that's the reason. I don't think it's a valid reason on why
stick to narrating me, Wario.
Yeah, nobody from Irapuato has anything valuable to say about León.
Yeah. So, I just want to throw that out there because I heard it and I was like, I highly disagree. But
I mean, they really try to push this León Tijuana rivalry, but it's not going anywhere.
Tijuana tries to push that. We don't try to push that.
But it's not going anywhere.
They try to push the one with Pachuca too.
Yeah.
That's even
the Cemento Boys rivalry. What do they call it? The Fortaleza, what? The Clásico Fortaleza?
Clásico Fortaleza, yeah.
Oh, man, that's the worst one.
Yeah. So, anyways. Okay, so we're going to get a heavily rotated lineup for tomorrow. So what are predictions for second leg versus Guastatoya at home? Louis, you'll be present. What is your prediction
Yeah.
for tomorrow?
Wait, you're not gonna play the clip for that?
Oh, because I thought we had 2 predictions, so I don't know which.
We
Okay,
can do it twice.
let's do it twice. So go into prediction time.
Prediction time!
CCL second leg. Louis, your prediction.
Yeah. Without knowing the lineup and like seeing the first 15 minutes and like how they're going to try to go, are they going to try to pad this lead, or are they just going to try to cascarear again? It's kind of hard to know, but I'd be happy with another 2-0.
2-0. Okay, that's at
It
full.
could be more, or it could be like just a 1-0, or even like a maybe Guastatoya gets frisky and scores one on us, and it ends up being like a 1-1 or something. I don't think so, but I think a 2-0 is a pretty safe, conservative bet and a result that would be satisfying to me, given the circumstances.
So aggregated 4-0.
Yeah.
Okay, Carlos, your prediction for second leg tomorrow.
I think we're gonna get a win. I also don't think they're gonna score. I just don't think they have the finishing. Judging from the first leg, their finishing was terrible. Even when they had chances, they couldn't get it in. I'm gonna go with a 3-0. 3-0.
Okay, 3-0 at home, aggregated 5-0. I'm gonna go with a 3-1. I'm gonna say, if we have a heavily rotated lineup, especially in the defense, could be that maybe one slips, which I wouldn't be too mad about. But I'm really hoping we score 3, especially at home, especially going into Friday night away. So I'm gonna say 3-1.
Yeah, if Leon scores early and scores first and scores early, that'll pretty much put it away.
Yeah.
So, yeah, hoping for that.
Could be the game where Ormeño gets his goal, right? I mean, actually, he scored in CCL in the past, but we're really looking for Ormeño for a league goal.
Well, he scored in Leagues Cup, and he scored in the Campeón de Campeones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Correct. Okay, so as we're not really sure of, I guess, what lineup's going to be tomorrow, but heading into Friday away, any thoughts on that game? I mean, are we feeling still good coming out after whatever result we get from yesterday? Tomorrow, sorry.
Yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I feel pretty confident. Nicaxa is 11th place right now, 7 points. They've won only 2 of their last 5. Yeah, I think we'll be fine. Regardless of tomorrow.
Yeah, we've had their number for so long, and we always play well in their stadium.
Now it is Jimmy Lozano with his home game, if I'm not mistaken. So,
we should be fine. I think so.
Yeah, Leon's won something crazy like 8 straight games against Nicaxa or something like that, including like 5 straight or 9 straight and 5 straight in Aguascalientes.
Yeah,
I won't be there. I will not be able to attend that game. So it's crazy. I was able to go to Guatemala, but I can't go here 2 hours away to Aguascalientes because it's 2022 and I'm back to playing a regular schedule with my orchestra again. And we got a concert that night, and I will not be able to go.
Are you going to stream it on your phone?
I will stream it on my phone.
There we go.
But I will not be able to. Attend in person, nor this one, nor our next away game at Juarez. I will not be able to attend that one either. So it's going to be a while. It's going to be a few weeks here without a trip. I hope I don't go crazy. The next.
I was going to say you're going to start itching or something like.
Well, the next trip will be March 18th, I believe, to Mazatlan. So yeah, that'll be the next trip that I'm able.
I was going to ask, are you going to travel to US if we make it against an MLS?
Probably not.
Rival?
I'm hoping that Motagua beats Seattle Sounders this week, so that our next round would be in Honduras, where they're not having fans anyway. And I have to renew my passport, so I'm going to be out of traveling internationally for probably 6 to 8 weeks, which would put me out for the next, even if the orchestra didn't, which it probably would anyway, Yeah, going. I really wanted to make this Guatemala trip, and I'm glad I did. But these future trips are going to be a little trickier.
Boo.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Um,
hoping. I mean, if we make it to the final, which will be a two-leg final,
well, the semifinal is
especially if
supposed to
we,
be first week of April, I think. First week of April, semifinal.
Is
yeah,
it?
First week of April, yeah.
and
April
I
5th
have,
to the 7th is first leg.
Oh,
and
okay.
So
without looking at the bracket, I don't know who that could be against.
it's either Colorado or it's either New York.
And I would love to make both those trips, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. I mean, even if I mean, especially with this passport thing. Like, I was afraid they weren't going to let me into Guatemala because I read somewhere that they want you to have 6 months of vigencia left on your passport to come into the country, and I only had 5. So I was afraid they weren't going to let me in, but it ended up not being a problem. But I got to redo it so I don't run into issues like that
Yeah.
again. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you made it in and made it out.
Yeah, yeah, but it's just so funny. I could go there, but I can't go to Aguascalientes, which is, I believe Querétaro, I believe, is a little bit closer to Guanajuato anyway, but
Yeah.
like one of the closest trips that you can make to see a game.
Oh man.
That's how it is, you know.
Yeah,
That's how
but
it
it's just
is.
these games on Friday. Friday is a terrible night for a game.
It is, but
Yeah.
it's nice too. I mean, it has its pros and cons, right? At the same time.
Well,
Viernes
for me, it's all
Botaneros?
cons because I can never
Yup.
go.
Yup.
Yeah.
I love Viernes Botaneros.
Me too.
But sort of, because like it's fun. It's the weekend. You're getting the weekend started. But then after the game's over, you're like, well, there's no more Leon until next
Well,
week.
if you win,
True.
it's great because then you can just watch the rest of the jornada as a
Not
neutral
care.
and enjoy and not care because you already did your job. If you lose, then it's kind of painful
It's a long
to watch the rest of the
weekend.
jornada.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah,
Definitely.
let's not lose.
Yeah.
I hope not. So looking ahead, as we mentioned, this jornada will start off on Thursday with Pachuca Mazatlán, Querétaro Toluca, both on Thursday. Friday, we're at Aguascalientes versus Necaxa that same Friday. Juarez versus Tigres, interesting. We have Cholos versus Atlas also that Friday. Saturday, early game, Monterrey San Luis, Chivas Puebla, which will be interesting. Saturday night as well, Pumas America, and Sunday, no 12 o'clock game, so it will be Cruz Azul Santos at 7 o'clock. So that's that jornada weekend. Are we doing predictions for Nicaxa?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Sure.
Let's go ahead. Second cue of prediction time.
Prediction time!
Friday night, Viernes Botanero. Carlos, your prediction: Leon versus Necaxa.
I don't think it'll be as easy as facing Guastatoya. So I think we'll let one in. I'm gonna go with the safe 2-1 win in Aguascalientes.
2-1. Louis, as you'll be
I'll go-
watching via orchestra.
Yeah, I also don't think it'll be as easy, but I think the result will end up being the same. I think we'll get a 2-0. Most of the times when we go there, I won't be there, but Leon has an amazing presence at that stadium always because it's such a short trip. It's like an hour and a half from Leon to Aguascalientes. So that stadium and Aguascalientes doesn't really have that many Necaxa fans.
And
The fans don't really identify in that city. Don't really identify with that team. Never have.
Yeah.
So Leon is always like they are in casa at that game, and most of the last few visits, the last one, all but one, a couple. Well, back in the Apertura in 2019, that thrilling 4-2 win where they scored the too late to win it. Leon did. That was the only time I'd seen Necaxa score a goal, and all the times that I've been there, all the other times it had been Leon shutouts.
Yeah.
So I'm predicting another Leon shutout this time. I'll say 2-0.
Okay. Carlos 2-1, Louis 2-0. Raul Guerrero says Leon wins and América loses will be a good weekend. Always is, Raul. Always is.
Well, that's what we had this weekend.
Yeah. So,
And a Chivas loss.
And a Chivas
Because we
loss.
beat them.
there you go. 2-for-1 special.
Cherry on top.
Sadly, not a Cruz Azul loss, but oh well.
No.
Or a Tigres loss, but we got a Rayados loss.
Yeah, we did get a
Rayados
Rayados
lost by
loss.
Puebla is always a good one too.
Yeah, I think Puebla will come crashing down eventually.
No,
Maybe not to
Yes.
Liguilla.
no,
But-
the Larca boys need to keep going. Okay, leave
No,
them alone.
we need to keep going. I want to win the championship.
Oh yeah, of course. Carlos, I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna go with the 2-1 as well. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I think it'll be a good game. We'll see how Jimmy Lozano plays out. As he's a fresh new coach, taking over Necaxa. Obviously they're at home, but I think we're still pretty dominant. I think we'll let one in. So 2-1 this week.
Davila aplica la Lady Lex.
Yes. Por
Yeah.
dos.
He's at 3 goals right now, and
He is at 3 goals right now.
he's also at 3 yellows. So he needs to be careful. 2 more yellows, and that's a suspension.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Anything else before we go?
No, the activity just doesn't let up.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So much football this week. Let's do it, man.
Yes. So, quick update. I saw that due to Canada's weather, because tomorrow is going to be back-to-back Santos and Montreal, and then Leon Wasatoya. The Santos game will be postponed until Wednesday at 7 due to their weather. So tomorrow we'll have our own game versus Wasatoya, and Wednesday will be Santos and Montreal.
And Thursday, keep an eye on that Motagua Seattle Sounders.
Yeah.
Because we could either get a rematch with Seattle Sounders in the event that I would not be able to go to Seattle, which is so close to home, to see that game would be quite painful. So that's the other reason I'm hoping it's Motagua.
But they don't look that great this year, Seattle.
Well, no
looks
MLS
like
club
they-
looks that great in CCL at this stage because the season hasn't started yet. It's preseason,
Gotcha.
off-season form.
But is
Yeah.
it like mostly the same guys, same team, same squad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Raúl Guerrero says Ormeño scores. Bueno, hopefully. Yes, that's what we all want.
well,
Please.
I called an Ormeño hat trick live from the stadium at in Guatemala, and he didn't get it, so he's got another chance.
He does have another chance to start his confidence era with Leon. Okay, guys. Well, thank you everybody that joined the Monday Night Football. Shout out to Raul and Gustavo, and shout out to Chivas del Norte as they are going through the pain of their loss versus Leon. But yeah, shout out to Gustavo and Raul, very active in the comments. Thank you for sharing and jumping on this Monday Night Football. Thank you guys, everybody that joined us via YouTube and Periscope, who hopped in and hopped out. We'll definitely have lots to talk about. If you guys aren't following, please follow the Lines In podcast. Also, if you're stuck at work for whatever reason during the match, go ahead and follow Club Leon EN to keep you updated on the live game action in English, of course. So thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you on another episode of the Lines In podcast.
Ciao.